I have a question from the Facebook group. This is the Mile High 5 Facebook group, and I'll kind of summarize and then I'll read the whole thing. But someone is thinking about maybe becoming a content creator. They actually tried it, it didn't quite work out, but they were thinking about coming up with a content creation system or plan where they come up with some ideas and they want to use AI to maybe have like faceless videos. So they posted it in the group and titled it Confessions of a Secret Millionaire. So remember, this is for Mile High Five. This is the financial podcast, the financial independence, retire early podcast that I have. So people are coming at it from the sort of early retirement standpoint, or at least someone who wants to become financially independent and then kind of control their time and have freedom. Confessions of a Secret Millionaire from an anonymous member. I've been doing a bit of soul searching lately and would love some thoughts and feedback from the group. Coast Fire, and I've been thinking more intentionally about how I want to spend my time going forward. I'm keen to create something creative that can generate income without being directly tied to my hours, location independent, and I can put as much or as little time and effort into it without being an issue. I've explored a few options already. Online course creation or building a personal brand business seemed promising, but I've come to realize it's a huge amount of work, and honestly, I'm not sure I have the hustle or appetite for that kind of grind. I've also briefly tried content creation with YouTube, but it was very time intensive and I didn't really gain traction, and I don't feel particularly comfortable talking on camera, so I paused that idea for now. I will pause the question for a second and mention that Coast Fire generally means that someone has saved enough for retirement, and if they just let that nest egg grow over the next X number of years until they get to sort of, in air quotes, traditional retirement age, or a time when they can access that nest egg. Typically, these are in retirement vehicles, pre-tax or post-tax accounts, whether it's a IRA, a 401k, or like a Roth IRA. So typically, there's some age-limited access to those because they're retirement accounts. But if they don't save anymore, they should be in good shape. They should have enough money to retire whenever they reach that specific age. It's a little fuzzy around the edges, but that's the general idea. Recently, though, I've been thinking about a different angle, maybe a more modern, anonymous blog style approach. Something faceless, possibly avatar-based videos, sharing thoughts, lessons, and experiences as a very normal, self-made Coast Fire person navigating everyday life. Less guru energy, more honest reflection and perspective. I'm not even sure how I would build this yet, and I know I have a lot to learn, but before I go too far down the rabbit hole, I wanted to sense check it here. Do you think people would actually find something like this interesting or valuable? What kinds of topics do you think would resonate? Has this already been done to death by most Coast Fire or fire people, and is there really much value I could add? My initial thought is hopefully the workflow would be something like me writing down my ideas around a specific topic, and then with a bit of AI magic and hopefully only a few clicks, turn that into an avatar-based video and podcast. So it's something creative, human, but AI assisted. So not too much of a grind, but still has a bit of personality. Really keen to hear any feedback, ideas, reality checks, or even a don't bother advice with a sort of a smiley emoji. I made some notes, so I hope I'll be able to give you an answer, but there's a very strong chance that you'll be more confused after I finish than before I started. So, number one, I think I might be coming at this a little bit jaded. I have been creating content online since 2013, technically. I started with a blog, did some YouTube stuff. I've created courses. I've had different kind of workshops and other digital offerings, and then podcasting as well. So kind of a wide range. I've earned money as an affiliate, sometimes with ads, other times working directly with companies to create some sort of content. And I'll try to make sure I give advice that makes sense for someone trying to start out, not like someone with years of experience, but it's hard for me to separate those. So I'll try to give as good of advice as I possibly can. Number one, I do want to comment on your observation on YouTube kind of being a lot of work and also not getting much traction. The reality check associated with that is anything worthwhile that has some long lasting impact or something that you could stick with for a while, it probably will take a lot of work. And if it's content creation, it's going to be hard to get traction. People don't care about you. They want to potentially like learn or be entertained. Those are like the two main things with content creation. But essentially, like everything's hard. And if it's really easy to do, then it'll be super crowded and other people can displace you very easily. So, for example, just jumping straight to your idea where you're like, maybe I can get a couple ideas together and then click a couple buttons, use AI, and then have some output at the end, whether it's an audio format, because you could do that on Notebook LM, whether it's a video format where you use a little avatar like you described. I mean, a lot of people can do that. And some of the comments that were in the Facebook group, a lot of people mentioned different ideas, but a lot of people don't want that avatar or the AI side of things. I watch a lot of YouTube, and one thing that I do like is the specific personality of the person. And even if I don't have a ton in common with them, or I'm watching something that I won't actually participate in, which I can give you examples, I still enjoy the story behind it and then the people's personalities. And then if it's a vlog style or something where maybe there's other characters involved, other members of their family or friends, that's cool to get to know them as well. So the two examples are like van life or sort of long-term travel. I'm probably not going to do that. I might rent a van sometime, hang out for a weekend somewhere, but I'm not going to buy a van. Definitely not going to convert a van, and I'm not going to travel long-term either. The other one is ultra marathons. I kind of like the story. I like hearing about people's training and stuff. There's an extremely low chance that I would do an ultra marathon. I like the idea of it, but the fact is it takes a lot of time. And at this point, I'm not willing to put all that time into training. And then, I mean, let alone the physical ability to be able to, run that far and hike that far, I'm not willing to put in the time. Those are two areas where I just like the personality of whoever's creating the videos. You did have some concern around, other people being in the fire space and just, is it saturated? Is it overcrowded? And I say no. Like any sort of market you're looking at, there is potentially more people than there were before creating the content. But I think there's always room for more people, unless it's a declining sort of idea, then it becomes a little bit more difficult. But if it's something where it's even or it's growing over time, which depending on like where you consume content and I guess like if you're more mainstream or not, like if all the podcasts and all of your friends are in the fire community, then you may feel like, oh man, like all the podcasts out there are just about fire. Turns out it's a pretty small portion of personal finance just in general. And there's a lot of people, most people don't know anything about it. So in my opinion, it's still like a growing area and a great one to be part of. But the big thing is like, sure, maybe there's a lot of people out there, but there's new podcasts and new content creators that start all the time. and they have their own personality, their own story that they're bringing to the table. So they're able to grow really quickly, even in a saturated market. As far as earning a little money and having like some flexibility, essentially being self-employed, I think maybe the route for someone like you, if you're like, I don't know if content creation is right for me, I think just working might be the right move. I mean, I like being self-employed and I don't really like working for someone else. So it wouldn't necessarily work out for me. But if you don't mind it too much, then you could be a contractor for someone else, perhaps using the skills that you already have. Maybe you're an accountant and you could help content creators do bookkeeping or something like that. Something that makes sense, again, with your background. So you could essentially just do it part-time on your own terms so that you do have the location independence and the ability to like do more work or less work based on what you want to do. Being a contractor isn't necessarily easy either because you do have to find clients, and at the end of the day, nothing's really that easy depending on who you watch on YouTube or wherever you're getting your content. They might make it sound a little easier than it should be, but everything is a little harder and takes a little longer than what you might expect. Or if people are selling you a course or something like that, then obviously they have an incentive to make it sound a little bit easier than it is. They don't want refunds, so they want to make sure that they're not like grossly understating it. But overall, like things are kind of hard. And I'll give you a quick story and wrap it up here. When I was creating websites and I had a course teaching people how to create websites, and it was a great business model back in the day, and it worked out for many people. It was still hard. Some people couldn't, connect the dots and couldn't make it work, even if they sort of followed along with the framework and plan that should work. That said, I was talking to a friend who I gave access to the course, and basically he made good money. He made a lot of money at a corporate job. And he was like, well, can't I just hire someone to do the work within the course? And then, I'll pay them. I'll pay them good, but I'll just send them off to do it. And then I'll just own the website. I'll make the money along the way. And technically, you could try that. And some people were able to make it work. But generally, just because you know the steps and you could hire people, like you haven't done it yourself, but you need to have the experience with the full, again, maybe like the full framework or the full process before you could try to outsource it. So when I go back to the root of your question where you're thinking, well, I haven't really done this before, but maybe I can create faceless avatar videos and then I'll just use AI. Maybe I'll put in a few bullet points. I'll write a few paragraphs, and maybe then I can get some views on YouTube that way. Well, that sounds in theory like a process that could work, but as far as like building an audience or having anyone connected to your personality or caring about your story, they really won't care at all because it's extremely hard to get anyone to like pay attention at all. There's like way too much content being published in general. So all that to say, I'm sure you'll figure something out. I mean, if you're in the Coast Fi situation, you can make it work. And here's the thing. So there was I think it came off much harsher than what I was hoping. But the reality check is everything is a little bit hard. You can start a YouTube channel. You can be a content creator. You could pick whatever platform you like working on and spend time there. But if it's a creative pursuit, which it sounds like you kind of want it to be, it should stand alone to be an enjoyable thing for you so that you get a little obsessed about it, so that you could work on it and it won't feel like work. That's what it was like when I was working for myself. I was totally obsessed. I wanted to work on all this stuff. Eventually I ran out of steam and caffeine, but I wanted to work on it. I was completely obsessed with like learning more and optimizing my sales funnel and doing all this stuff. And it was a huge amount of fun. But then it was a lot of work as well. So you can compete wherever you want. You can create content. You could do it. That said, it will be a decent amount of work. So there's no free rides. Nothing's easy. Everything's a little harder than you think it might be. I hope that was helpful. If you have other questions out there, you could leave a comment.